America rules, and so does real American beer. Get some, brother.
I'm back. I know you missed me last week, everybody, but I left you in good hands. John Shear. I hear James Tatum was stepping in. I didn't even watch the show. That's how good I know my people are. I don't even have to watch it. Denzel Snipes, I think, was on here. I just hear it was the best. But what a horrible weekend. My St. John's Red Storm had their worst game that they could have had. A game that they should have had a few weeks ago, but it was what it was. Can't have your worst game of the year in the NCAA tournament, but it happens. We knew that they had flaws. But we're going to talk the NCAA tournament, the Sweet 16, the transfer portal, how it's ruining the game. There was a bunch of NFL deals that came in this evening, which we didn't even have slated to talk about. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a bunch of other stuff. There was a major ACL injury in the women's tournament last night. I actually saw it, and I don't watch much of the women's tournament. I just haven't had a chance to catch on that. I'm kind of anti NCAA tournament at the moment, taking it away. We got a lot of other stuff to talk about. We got baseball coming up in a few days. We're going to talk about what happened in Japan since I'm back. But let's bring in John Shear.
I mean, you didn't once mention anything about the back-to-back champions in the men's college basketball tournament getting knocked out by my Florida Gators. They are dead and gone. The round of 32 is all they made it. I mean, if the Gauntlet, which airs Friday nights on our network, it's in its off season right now. But if they had a sports moron of the week right now, it would be Dan Hurley. That would be the sports moron of the week, with the comments he made, the crybaby bellowing after losing to Florida. They called him, they called him crying, his eyes out in the tunnel, throwing temper tantrums. And then he was trying to, before the game, encourage Duke fans to root for his UConn Huskies, even though Duke and UConn hate each other. I mean, the guy's just a joke. But yeah, that would be sports moron of the week.
No, not at all. Not at all. An 8 seed, not the best UConn team. Took you guys
back-to-back
down
champions.
To the wire.
But I'm saying he would be because he's a big crybaby. You can't do that as a head coach, a leader of young men.
He's one of the best coaches in college basketball. We'll get to that later. Let's get to quick hits. We had enough for you now. We're going to go to quick hits.
And we had enough of St. John's, too.
Yes, we did. They lost. They played their worst game, which I said. It happens. Their flaws were evident, but they'll come back better. They have a great head coach and a lot of money behind them. All right, let's get to quick hits. Number 1. Eagles defensive end Brandon Graham retires. Would you say in an average, above average, or elite career? I'll start with you. I'm
not going to say elite. I would say above average because anytime you win multiple Super Bowls, it's probably an above average career because, how many guys win 2 championships in their respective sport in their careers? That's a hard thing to do to even get to a championship in your sport, let alone get there twice. And win it twice. I mean, it's just any guy would, or any woman in their sport, woman as well, would kill to be able to say they won 2 championships, whatever sport it is. So I would say above average. He was a really good player who won 2 Super Bowls. Yeah, it's got to be an above average career. It doesn't mean he was an above average player. I think he was about an average player with a high motor. But above average career, yeah, because, 1-2 chips. You can't. And he beat the heck out of Tom Brady in that Super Bowl to help the Eagles win years back with Nick Foles.
So, WWSS, what would Swoop say? And I think Swoop would say above average. I don't think he would say elite. He's a pretty smart bird. But, yeah, career-wise, definitely. Is he an elite player? Definitely not. He's probably average to above average throughout his career. But like John alluded to, 2 Super Bowls, that definitely gives you an above average career,
Yeah.
without a doubt. Let's go to number 2.
That was quick.
Quick hits. Who looks for real in the women's Sweet 16 field? John?
Oh man, I would say UConn. You got Paige Beckers, and now Juju Watkins is done, so you got to worry about that. The only answer is UConn because the only threat, really, in my eyes, was Juju Watkins and USC, and Juju's gone. Unfortunately, she tore her ACL, which is just awful because she's a wonderful player. She's a generational type of player. The weird thing is, uh, the night before, I believe, her and Jaden Daniels were hanging out on the court side, and I believe Jaden Daniels' mom basically had talked about how there ain't no women for him. We're focusing on football, and we definitely saw some chemistry between Juju and Jaden Daniels right there. And then the next night she tears her ACL. So I just thought that was weird how that happened. But yeah, anyway, I sidetracked. Yeah, it's got to be UConn. Paige Beckers. I mean, she's just amazing. She's generational as well. Like, people don't give her enough credit for how good she is. She's like the John Stockton of women's college basketball.
So, like the men's tournament, the women's tournament is very weak.
It's very
You got,
both this year, right?
yeah, I mean, the lowest seed that's in the Sweet 16 is a 5 seed. So, honestly, who cares? It's a miss. I mean, any one of these teams is a really good team. I'm going to go with John. UConn is definitely has a shot. South Carolina is a really good team.
Of course.
Texas is a really good team. So all those teams have shots. Even Notre Dame's a really good team, but any of these
They
teams
always
are all,
are. Yeah.
they're all top 5 seeds or higher. Boring. It's the Sweet
Where's the
16.
where's the buzzer beaters this year? Where's the crazy games?
Yuck.
Like, this is the worst tournament, JB, I've seen in a very long time.
It's
Like,
on
what is
both
going on?
ends.
Aside from the Maryland Colorado State game and the Florida game with UConn was really good too.
Yeah.
But as far as buzzer beater wise, like, beside the Maryland game, there's
Yeah, the
been
Maryland
nothing.
travel.
Yeah,
Besides the
that
Maryland
definitely was a
travel.
travel. But other than that, there's been no buzzer beaters. Like, I thought we'd get a
No.
million of them. And
You usually
usually
get
it's
3 or
yeah,
4.
the
And it's
first 2
always one
rounds.
day.
It's the first 2
Yeah.
rounds too.
Usually it'll go if Thursday is all chalk, Friday is full of upsets, or vice
Yep.
versa. It's
Yep.
never both days. It's always one day predominantly. And when Thursday was all favorites, I said, okay, Friday will get a bunch of upsets. Not really. There was only a few, but it's just ugly. What's number 3 so we can get past quick hits again because we got a lot to go talk. All right, which is worse, an infestation of rats or cockroaches?
Oh man. Well, JB,
Wow.
hold on. You go first because you lived in New
Yes.
York and you probably saw
Yes.
rats every day on the subway or something. Because yeah, you go first because you've lived this.
All right. So, as a person that's lived in New York City, I've seen my fair share of both of these things.
You've been around
And
Yankee fans a lot, haven't you? So you've seen both
yes,
of these.
no. This is another Yankee fans. I mean, more like the area around Camden Yards. But anyway,
I'm not disagreeing with that. To be honest,
for me, I would think cockroaches would be worse. I don't like bugs. Rats. They're both pretty bad. I mean, that's a tough question.
Gosh, I hate you, Jay.
How do you differentiate between the two? I mean,
I hope Jay steps on Legos barefoot every day for the rest of his life for this question.
Nice.
I hate it so much. So I wish that upon him very much.
You can tell who has kids by the punishment that they wish for.
Well, I mean, have you ever stepped on a Lego barefoot in the middle of the night, not seeing it?
Never have I ever.
The worst pain you'll ever experience.
Yeah, no children.
I would probably say cockroaches because cockroaches probably are not as likely to carry something like a disease. Rats are more likely to kill diseases that will kill you. Cockroaches are annoying, and yes, they're gross, and they probably can carry some bad stuff. But rats are more likely to carry stuff that can and will kill you. I mean, I've seen many stories about rats and mice and all that carrying nasty stuff. And plus, like, I don't know, like, I would rather have a tiny cockroach climbing on me than a big ass rat climbing, you know what I mean? That's like a couple
Yeah.
pounds.
Well, they say rats can gnaw through
Yeah,
anything.
and rats can eat you too. Like, they can
Yeah.
eat you. So,
Yeah, I don't want
yeah,
either one of these.
give me the cockroaches, but plus nightmares because thanks a lot, Jay. You
Oh,
know, I
yeah,
hope your
I'm not a
Texas
fan of that
Longhorns have a
question.
terrible year this year. I hope all your
I think
teams the worst years ever.
wow. So let's get to our first topic. But before we do, let me just tell you, jet lag is real. So I've gone from East Coast to West Coast many times, and that's nothing. I can do that in my sleep. I take the overnight flight and I'm fine. I went to
I'll sleep.
Japan. I'm still suffering from this jet lag and this switching of the hours. Jay, I know you've been across the world with your military service. I don't know, how you recovered from those, long ass flights covering, being in Afghanistan, then coming back to the US or wherever you were. But wow, is it rough? I still feel rough. And I've been back for almost 5 days now. I'm still trying to get back on track. But let's get to our first topic. Now that we all know I'm a little
Now that
tired,
you randomly told us about jet lag and nobody cares,
yes, jet
please
lag.
go on first
Jet lag
topic.
is rough. See, I don't want to hear about players jet lag with their 3 hour flights. All right, so the men's tournament, which has been awful. I mean, there have been a lack of close games. It's been all chalk. The one big upset was St. John's, where, to be honest with you, as a St. John's fan, I'm not shocked that they lost because their flaw was they can't
Oh,
shoot.
stop it. You ran your
What?
mouth the
Yes, but
entire time, this entire
John,
season.
John, what was their flaw all year? They couldn't shoot,
Well, none of
right?
us would know because all you did was run your lips about them the
John,
entire year about how great they
John,
are.
they are great. They were the best defensive team in the league in men's basketball all year.
That that
You
right
know,
there. That's
Arkansas.
what scares me right there.
So Arkansas, first of all, isn't the regular Arkansas, and
No,
who's
no, they're
behind
not.
Arkansas? And you see, this is where
One of the
men's
best coaches ever.
basketball. Forget about forget about coaching right now. This is
No, but you
where
can't with John
no,
Calipari.
stop for a second. We're not even talking about coaching. We're going to go off the court.
All
We're
right.
talking about NIL money. Who runs the Arkansas NIL money? Do you know?
I have no idea.
The guy is a Tyson. You ever eat chicken? You ever go to a supermarket?
Oh my gosh, I love those poor battered
Yes,
chicken that they
billions,
hurt so
billions.
badly in their
So
things. Yeah.
when you look at men's college basketball, the teams that are actually going to be going places, St. John's has Mike Rapoli. Who's Mike Rapoli? Under Armour, and I forget what sports drink he had.
But yeah, those
Billions.
are some big names. Yeah.
Right. There's not every school has that. And that's why your coach, or not your coach, Arkansas's coach, Calipari, left Kentucky to go to Arkansas. And when he left, I didn't know who was behind the NIL money, but I'm like, why would he go from Kentucky, which is a historical program? If you win at Kentucky, that's like being a basketball god,
Yeah.
to Arkansas. Arkansas. Who in their
Arkansas
right
is
mind?
more of a football school too, not a basketball school.
Right, but it's the NIL's run by the Tysons, who have billions of dollars and don't mind spending it. And when you look at their team, all athletic, all their freshman was phenomenal. They have a
You know that
good
it reminds me of those
what?
Kentucky teams. Remember the Anthony Davises, the
Yep,
people like that Calipari coached. Like that's how he built his teams. Remember their championship runs, JB? That's how
yep.
he built his teams.
Listen, when that game started, I was talking to my friend and I'm like, I don't like how this team looks. They're very athletic. And
Yep.
Pitino did a couple of things that I was bothered by. But then again, I'm not a Hall of Fame coach. But they were able to drive when they did a pick and they did the pick and roll. Instead of rolling, they were driving on the pick. And we couldn't stop that. And it was evident because all their points in the second half basically came in the paint by driving. Why we didn't switch to a zone? I get that you play man to man all year, but you have to adapt. And why he didn't do that, I don't know. I would love to understand it. No one in the press conference asked him that because everyone was worried why they didn't put RJ Lewis back in the game. I get it as a New Yorker. I saw John Stark shoot like 1 for 8,000 in the NBA Finals. So I get why you sit him. Do I like the idea of sitting him? No, but I understand why he did it. But why no one asked him why they didn't play a zone in that second half when they kept getting beat off the drive? I don't get.
And I think that that's going to be. I don't think Florida's going to have a problem with Maryland. I think that Maryland had their little run, but Florida's just too big and too physical. I think for Maryland, but if Arkansas survives and they end up playing, I know Florida won the SEC and Arkansas's in the SEC, but if Arkansas does play Florida, that's a scary matchup for Florida. Like that has to be the team. You can't. I know the Terps are a young team. Florida's just too big and too physical, and you saw this, right? This is what I was talking about and I post on social media. The reason Florida beat UConn, you saw why they were the 1 seed. The difference between a 1 and an 8 seed. It was tied with about 2 minutes to go, and Florida took complete control of that game. Hit the shots they needed to, rebound they needed to. UConn was missing everything. They weren't getting the rebounds. They weren't hitting free throws. That's what you see the difference between a 1 and an 8 seed. Those are the things. And that's what I think Florida. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I do think Florida is just a better team, right? And so, but it's going to Arkansas is going to be the hard team because I think if Florida gets past Arkansas, JB, I think they go to the national championship. And I do think they're playing Duke. I don't think they're playing anybody else because I don't think anybody's beating Duke.
I had Florida in the national championship game against Duke, so I mean, I agree with you. I had St. John's getting up to Florida.
I did too. I had Final Four.
Yeah. And I had Florida beat. No, it would have been the round of 8.
Around it, yeah. But I had them. Yeah, I had them deep into the tournament. I didn't have them losing 32.
And I mean, I don't know. The referees in this tournament have been horrible. That Maryland no call. That was horrible. The St. John's game was unwatchable, and it went both ways. I'm not blaming the refs for the loss.
No, you're not that type of guy. You are not that type of guy.
Yeah, we lost because we couldn't shoot. Listen, they outplayed us. They played a better game, and again, being on X all the time, people attacking RJ Lewis because he had a bad game because they lost their $7.50 parlay. Well, you're the idiot that bet on a kid that's 21. I mean. The kid's nothing but class. He's a class act. Stop, sending him messages. He canceled his Instagram because people are lowlives. You lost the bet. That's on you. That's not on him. He had a bad day. He cost himself millions of dollars by having that bad day. So, that's just, I feel horrible for him. I actually spoke to his mother on X and told her, don't let it get to him. He had a great year. It's all good.
So somebody said, how about BYU making it this far? Hey, what did we say last week, Jay, when we talked with James? We did this show, and I said there's going to be one of these teams, just like a BYU, that will be able to shoot the lights out, and they're going to surprise everybody and get to the Sweet 16. And that's right around when Cinderella's slipper falls off of that one. But that's typically how that works, is that a team like a BYU – we all thought Yale would go further. We all thought they would do more damage. They didn't, but we all thought a team like that would kind of get about this far, and then I think this coming weekend they'll get knocked out inevitably.
And what a game that's going to be, BYU against Alabama. That's going to be an offensive, fast-paced, get some popcorn and watch game. Yeah. Whoever gets 91st is going to win. That's how that game's going to be. Defense, no. You saw that last week with St. John's. If you're looking for defense, don't watch that game. But can any of those teams, Arizona, BYU, or Alabama, beat Duke? I don't think so.
Duke is just too good right now. They're just way too good. I don't even think Arizona is going to compete with Duke. Like Duke is now, but they're playing is another level. And I think the only way you get them is a national championship. And then it's like a game 7 when you get to the national championship. Anything can happen in a game 7.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that's the only way somebody's going to get Duke is national championship. Anything can happen. Even Florida, It's going to be a long shot because Duke is so far above everybody else. But in a game like that, winner takes all, maybe you hold the ball a little bit too tight when you shoot, and you miss some shots that end up costing you. So, but I think they
Yeah.
easily get to the national championship.
So to me, the biggest thing that I see that I'm hoping for in the Sweet 16 right now is we get a Michigan State Elite Eight game for the trip to the Final Four. Because
That would
that,
be cool.
the SEC thing, listen, they have 14 teams in. You got 7 in the Sweet 16. Good for you. You're the best conference this year. It's boring. I think Florida's getting to the national
I
championship.
don't think that. Wait a minute. I don't think it's boring. Like you can't say that because Arkansas is a fun surprise. Alabama's really good.
Oh,
Florida's
I
really
didn't
good.
I didn't
So it's
say they
not
weren't
like
really good,
Florida's
but it's
boring. It's not
boring.
like Alabama's boring. You just talked about how and Arkansas is a team that they're the darling right now, and they're the team that could wreck this entire tournament. They already have
Right.
by knocking out St. John. So I don't think it's boring what SEC has done. It's just you're right. It's fun to look at other conferences because alls we talk about is SEC. It would be
Right.
kind of fun to have a Big Ten matchup that deep in a tournament.
And especially a rivalry, Michigan State. You're not talking about Purdue against Michigan State.
Yep.
Michigan, that would bring some heat to that game. Can you imagine the arena, when you have Michigan and Michigan State playing for a spot in the Final Four? And I was looking at it at the bracket because, when you pick your teams in the bracket, you don't realize when you get to that stage of it who's going to play, because I don't think anybody had Michigan getting this far. And if you did, good for you. I didn't see it. And now you look at it, it's like, wow, we could have a Michigan State for a spot in the Final Four. That's wild. I don't know how they set up what teams play where, but that's definitely pretty cool.
Yeah.
So right now you got Florida Duke in your championship game.
Yeah, I just think if Florida plays the way we saw, they came out slow, but if they play the way they did that second half when things mattered against the back-to-back champs, they're just as tough to beat as anybody. So,
Yeah.
and I ultimately think that they're going to have that because they just got so much depth. They're so good. They're so big and so physical. They're hard to out rebound, hard to do all those little things against.
Yeah.
Hey, let me
I
ask you a
mean,
question. Let me ask you
yeah.
a question. Hold on. Did you see this thing about Scottie Pippen's son transferring? He entered the transfer portal because it opened yesterday. He's not going to be there for the Michigan game this weekend for the Sweet 16 game because he transferred out of Michigan. So he's no longer a Michigan Wolverine, and he won't be part of the NCAA tournament the rest of this tournament. Did you see that?
Somebody from Ole Miss did the same thing.
Like, that's crazy.
How do you have the transfer portal? They do the same thing at football.
No, I know, but open. In the middle of the tournament?
What are we doing that we have this, during bowl season of football and during the tournament in basketball? Why wouldn't you go ahead and put it, April 15th to, May 14th? Why would you have it now? Why would I get to the Sweet 16 and it's affecting 2 teams in the same bracket, which is pretty funny. And, it could affect more by the time we get there. I believe there's over 1,000 players in the portal right now. And, we have the Sweet 16 coming up starting Thursday. And these 2 teams play Friday. And one of their players, I know Ole Miss, it's a starter. And Scottie Pippen Jr. or whatever his name is.
I know he's a backup, but still, that's depth. And that's one of your dudes. And in the middle of the tournament, he dipped.
But he's a Pippen. I mean, they sit on the bench when they're not getting the ball in the final play anyway. What do you expect?
Still, you said, and like we have on the screen right now, is the transfer portal killing the sport? It's killing the sport whenever you open it during that NCAA tournament. Guys that are still part of the tournament are opting out. I don't even imagine the college football playoff is happening and Ashton Janty is like, you know what? I kind of want to go play for Ohio State. You know what? I'm going to go do that. What? What are we doing?
It doesn't necessarily affect the playoff teams because most of those guys don't want to leave, but it affects the regular bowl game.
But you see what I mean? Imagine a college football playoff game and you're like, you know what? I don't want to play in this game. Like
Well,
I'm gonna
John,
opt to go. Like
think about it
what?
this way. If you're on the 12th at large team, right, in the college football
Yeah.
playoff, and you can go next year to play for Ohio State, and you know you're going to be a starter, and the NIL money would be 200,000 or half a million more, and the portals during the college football playoffs, right? Are you going to say, "Now I want to play," and you're a backup on that squad, but you know you're going to be a starter on Ohio State the next year and get a half million more? I'm bouncing.
No, I'm not because I think you have an obligation to the men beside you that you went to battle, practice in, practice out all year, no matter if you've been there 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. If you've gone to battle with these dudes in the locker room, the coaching staff, the guys on your team, your brothers in arms,
Give me my money.
you owe it to them to stick it out because loyalty is important. Money is not
Loyalty,
everything in life. And when you
loyalty is
look back, JB, when you look back, and if he's what if he ruined friendships, on that team, like relationships? Because Dave talked about all the time, JB, on our show, the relationships and athletes we talk to all the time, JB. We talk to a million athletes throughout our careers. And what do they say? Do they talk about money's the most important thing? No, they do not. They talk about how
yeah.
they miss the first thing they miss is not playing on the field. It's the brotherhood. And when you go back and say have to look those guys in the face in 10, 20 years, a reunion happens, and you're part of Michigan reunion, and Scottie Pippen Jr. comes back and he sees those guys. How's he going to look those guys in the eyes knowing that he left them in the middle of trying to win a championship? I,
Once again,
I wouldn't
you,
be able to
you're
sleep at night.
you're bringing up a Pippin who would put himself on the bench if they're not getting the ball. So, if you brought up the Ole Miss kid, it'd be a better argument.
Same goes
But
for anybody. My
you know,
argument goes for anybody,
but
man.
but I don't blame the kids. I blame the NCAA. How do you
Well,
have the transfer portal open during the tournament? Why don't we have it after the tournament? It's a simple fix, and it goes to football as well because it's during bowl season. Why is it happening now? What is the point? And first of all, if you go back years ago, this whole transfer portal, you used to have to sit out a year, and I'm okay with the not sitting out a year because if a
yeah.
coach leaves, there's got to be a balance. Like if
You
your
only got
coach
so much
leaves, yeah,
eligibility, in your
right,
career, and you're only so
yeah,
young for so long.
right. So I mean, I don't like the sitting out a year part, but and especially like if your coach leaves, it happens all the time. The guy from Xavier went to Texas, so I mean, you should be able to move. But remember, back in the day, teams stayed together for 3, 4 years. So
Yep.
that's when you had these schools that weren't looked upon as being great, that made these Cinderella stories because they played together, they had chemistry.
Yeah.
Now, what happens is the MAC conference, which Iona's in, which Patino coached at before he came to St. John's, they're all their first team players, all are in the transfer portal because now they know they can go play for a bigger Division 1 school and get paid. Where Iona and those schools in that conference aren't paying them.
Well,
The
speaking of
winner,
Iona, JB,
yeah,
did you know Michael Clayton Jr., who plays for Florida, played for
right.
Iona 2 years
Yes.
ago, and in the tournament, who knocked out Iona?
Oh,
UConn,
yep.
2023 knocked out UConn. Who knocked out
Yep.
UConn 2 years later? Michael Clayton Jr. and Florida knocked out UConn, so he got his revenge. I
Yes.
thought that was, I just wanted to throw
Well,
that out. That's pretty cool,
yes. He
story
he
that I
actually
saw.
was considering St. John's, and he went to Florida because he said it felt like family. Which, hey, listen,
I
I
respect
respect
it.
it.
Yeah.
You got to go where you feel comfortable, and nothing wrong with that.
But the thing is,
But
like we saw Carson Beck. Saw Carson Beck go from Georgia to Miami, and he went to Miami because of the Lambos, the money, and the lifestyle, man. And it's like, that's not even college football anymore. Like, that's not even about the game. It's not even about, hey, I want to play and win at the U. It's like Lambos and money and, women and
it,
scenery.
it's
Like, damn,
it's
man.
totally it's a business now.
Yeah.
It's not college athletics, and it's now the money part is legal. It used to be illegal, and it was going on. And there were a lot of schools in the SEC that were doing things that under the table, and not just the SEC, all throughout the country, but they're more known for it.
Hey,
And now Now it's legal and everyone gets to do it.
And you know
And
what's legal?
what?
You know what's legal? Real
What?
American beer. As long
Now
as
we're
you're
talking.
21, as long as you're 21 and or over, you can drink real American beer, and it is legal. I'm just saying, and we
It
know a thing
is.
or two about real American beer.
Matter of fact, let's watch the clip.
Oh, sure.
America rules, and so does real American beer. Get some, brother.
I love it.
That is my favorite beer. I love the taste of real American beer. It is just wonderful. And I mean, that's my favorite. So
So I had my first real American beer Super Bowl Sunday. It was phenomenal. I loved it. I came home, got back from New Orleans. I went to the store. I saw it. I looked pretty interesting. I like to try different beers, and I loved it. I bought a case after that, and been drinking it ever since. And when we got them to come on the show, I was all for it.
and some beers have a weird aftertaste. I don't feel like that has a weird aftertaste. I feel like you just taste it. It's really good. Some beers leave that like Natural Light will leave like a weird lingering goofy taste in your mouth. I don't like that. I like just real American beer. You drink it, it
Sure.
tastes good, boom, you're done. I don't like a lingering taste from a beer. That
No,
does not sit well with me at all. But when I drink real American beer, no lingering taste. Just boom, goes
not at
down,
all.
done. I like that in a
So,
beer.
so last night I go to lay down because I told you this jet lag is killing me, and it's like 9:30 at
Oh my
night,
gosh, who
and I
cares?
9:30 Central Time. I turn on the women's tournament because I go turn on ESPN and I'm not thinking the women's tournament's on. Yes, I am not a huge fan of women's NCAA women's basketball, but I'll watch it if it's on. So I turn on ESPN, and sure enough, within minutes, I see Juju Watkins driving up the court. Bam, she goes down, and I said, "Ooh, that looks bad." I felt horrible for her because I
Yeah,
never want to see an athlete get hurt.
gosh, no.
Tore, tore her ACL. How far could USC go without her, John?
No, they're done. They're done.
Wow.
Like it really doesn't matter because you're not beating UConn or the Notre Dames. Or you're not beat. There's too many really really good teams to try and win this thing without somebody that could have. I don't think she will now, but could have went on to beat Caitlin Clark's record for most points in her career. She could have beat that. And I don't think she will. I think it's going to be a long road to recovery. She'll be back, but I don't think she's going to. It's going to take some time. So,
So, John, I got a couple of questions for you
yeah,
because you know more about women's basketball than I do. So,
know more
first
about a
question,
lot of things than you do.
very few. Why are there quarters in women's basketball and men's basketball in college as halves? Why is
I
there?
like, to me, I just like the half. I think
Yeah.
one of the coaches, I forget who it was, maybe it was a college football coach, recently said, like, or maybe it was a college basketball coach. They're like, why do we even need a halftime? Like, we get momentum and the first quarter, we come back right back play. Same thing end of third. Why is there a halftime? Why is there like a 15-minute halftime? Why not like a couple minutes? Yeah. So
Oh, it's for TV at this point.
yeah, no,
I
I
mean,
understand, but it kind
yeah,
of, it kind of kills the momentum.
yeah. I don't get the quarter thing, and I'm trying to
I like the
understand.
first half, second half, be done with it. That's it.
Yeah, I'm into the halves a little bit better.
Yeah.
Um, so Juju, what could you say about it? Where does she rank compared to like Paige Buckers as far as women's players right now in the game?
Oh, I would say she's right. I mean, they're 1A, 1A, 1A. I'm not going to say
Okay,
1B, 1A, 1B because I think that would be a disservice to whichever one you want to say, because they're both that great. They're both generational type of players. They're elite players. They're going to be, both of them are going to go down as they're going to go down as two of the best college basketball women's players of all time. I wouldn't say the best, but they're going to be up there with how great they both are. And they're going to be great players in the WNBA. So that's how great these two really are, and I think the WNBA is so blessed to have that coming their way soon. They got Caitlin Clark, they got so many names, but having them is just going to add more fuel to that fire. But yeah,
So,
both these women are absolutely wonderful players.
so how does that affect her going into the W?
She'll be fine. We already saw everything we need to see in college. It's just a matter of, does she want to come back and try and set records or win championships? Or does she just want to basically just jump to a W? She can right now. I mean, I think she has some room to grow, obviously, but she could jump to a WNBA and she'll be one or two in the draft, whichever page it. One of those, they're going
You
to go 1 and 2.
you
However,
think even with the injury and because you
yeah,
got to remember it's March now, and when is their draft?
because I mean, JP, we've seen so many times teams don't draft because what can you do for me this year? They draft because what can you do for me for the next 10 to 15 years? So we've seen that so many times in our lives with NFL drafts. You draft a guy that tore his ACL or he has plantar fasciitis, and he's probably going to miss some time this year. And we get it. I mean, think about
As a 1 or 2 pick, though.
it's happened before. I mean, we've seen it happen before. You're
Mm.
not drafting for what can you do for me this year. You're drafting for I
As a
need
1 or 2
5,
pick, though,
10, 15 years of great play out of you. So yeah,
I
of
don't
course.
know. I
You
don't
would
know if I
be
would do that as a one or
insane to
two pick.
pass up on that because not only that, the ticket sells right away. The ad
But who's to know
revenue
if the
right
person
away.
ever comes back the same way? I mean, look at people like Bernard King after he
You
got his
can't
first knee
well, you
injury.
can't live like that. When you're
Uh,
drafting, you
when you
can't live
drafted
like
one
that.
or two, you need to.
Not if it's a generational player. Not if it's a player that has scored more points than Caitlin Clark in her first 2 years than anybody ever has. More than Caitlin Clark. Like she's on pace to end up being the best scorer in the history of college women's basketball. She's on that pace. So of course you're going to draft her or Paige. That like I said, they're both that great, JB. They're
I don't
not
know.
good players. They're players that don't come along very often. I know you say that in drafts like Cambor and Shador. Those guys aren't generational players. They're really good players. They're not generational. Those two are generational players that you have to have. As soon as you sign them, people are going to go buy their jerseys. They're going to be buying season tickets. Like that's what that does.
I don't know. I disagree, but I'll take your word for it. Where are we going next, Denzel? All right. Jimmy
Oh,
Butler returns to Miami to face his old team. Will the crowd show appreciation? John, since you're the resident Miami Heat fan, I'm calling him the Feet. That's how much I like Miami. You go first.
um, no, I don't think they will. He left on bad terms. He left because of how he acted childish, and now he's constantly talking bad about the franchise, about the Heat culture. You can't do that. We don't appreciate that. We don't care who you are. We don't care if you're Dwayne Wade. We don't care if you're Tim Hardaway, Alonzo Mourning. If you talk bad, if you talk bad about our culture, if you talk bad about our organization, like we will boo you, no matter who you are. You don't talk bad about the Miami Heat, no matter who you are. You don't cross Pat Riley. Same thing happened to LeBron. Like you do not cross the Miami Heat and the Heat culture. So no, he does not get an exception. He talked bad. You don't talk bad on the Heat culture, and he did. So
So,
see ya. Bye bye,
so
Garrett Cole. He's
back
your
in
Garrett
the
Cole.
back in the '90s, I was a huge Knicks fan before the Nets moved to Brooklyn, but Brooklyn outweighs the Knicks. So, you know, the Heat and Knicks used to have a great rivalry back then.
Oh, in the playoffs. Oh, yeah, I remember those
And
games.
one thing I will never say is that Miami's fan base is weak, stupid, or dumb.
Nope.
There is no way that they're going to give him a swell reception. They're going to be on him from beginning to end of that game, and they should be,
Yep.
because no matter what, he had a contract. If I'm a fan of a team and you have a contract and you up and go, it's the same thing like the transfer portal, except in the pros. You're signed. I get you may not be happy, but there's ways to go and get traded. he goes out of pocket and off the rails to get himself thrown out of places. And I I know I can't see the Miami Heat fans getting into him and being nice and giving him a standing O. It's not like a guy who left on good terms.
Well, it's not
Um,
even. I mean, JB, it's not like think about it. Brock Purdy makes less than $1 million a year on the
right,
Niners. Have we heard Brock Purdy say one thing about not making? Because we know Brock Purdy's deserves to get paid, not
right,
55 million, I would say, but he deserves to get paid something.
right.
Like I
Somewhere
would
around the
say
40,
30 to
45.
30, 40 million. I'm okay with that,
Yeah,
but he deserves to get paid nevertheless. I haven't
of
heard a
course.
peep out of that guy. Jimmy
No.
Butler on the Heat was making 55 million per year. He
Yep.
still had 2 years, 55 million per year left, and he's complaining that
Chirping.
he didn't get
Chirping.
chirping that he didn't get a new deal. Like, dude, you're making 55 million a year for 2 more years. It's $100+ million that you're still owed by the Heat. All you gotta do is play, and you're complaining. Like, dude, you're at the very tail end of your career. You're 35, making 55 mil a year, more than almost any NFL player, and you got something to say. The Heat organization just gave you a new contract recently. It wasn't that long ago that you signed on the dotted line. You were okay with. I wouldn't sneeze at 55 million, JB. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's underpaying
No,
Jimmy Butler. I think that's
no.
overpaying,
I
but it's
agree
definitely
with
not
you.
under.
So, John, I think Miami's got bigger problems, though, and I read this over the last couple of days. So it's rumored that one of your rookies is sleeping with Spo's ex.
I,
Uh,
I don't know.
have you read that, or have you seen
I
that
read
report?
it, but I
Okay,
have no way to confirm or deny those rumors. So I'm not going to
okay.
address that because I don't want to slander
No,
anybody.
no, no. I'm just
Nothing
saying
like
the
that.
the fact that that's being
Yeah,
reported,
yeah,
though.
yeah. It's being
I mean,
reported,
you
and
know,
it's all
it's
alleged.
it's gotta if there's any facet that where it could be true because we'll never know.
But then
You know,
again, that's an ex. They're not together anymore.
yes, but
Spo and her separated. I understand what you're going to say. You don't do that, but she's a free woman, and he is, from what I know, a free man.
right.
And if you're not with, and if she's free game, and he's free game.
I'm
I
not
think it's
not disagreeing
immoral.
with that,
I
but
think it crosses a line in the sand. But legally, you didn't do anything wrong, so I don't think there's much
uh,
to report on. I think
ethically
that
he did.
that's, I think that I think that that's their business and nobody else's business.
Uh,
Because if she was married to Spo, then it would
so
be
you're
like,
talking the
okay,
Boston situation. That would be a no go.
yeah, if you're married, that's a different situation. But she's a free woman. She can do whatever she wants. So I think it's
You're in it.
immoral,
Listen,
but
I don't know if it's
not
true or not,
illegal.
but an NBA player could probably get a lot of women. You
Yeah.
know, and supposedly he had a girlfriend while this was going on. So I don't know what the reason
But
to want
with
to do that.
athletes, when they have just like girlfriends, like to me, it's like because that athletes, they get around so much. There's so many opportunities for athletes that really, unless you put a ring on it, get a ring on it if you're a woman, unless you got a ring on that finger, to me, that's the only way you're really gonna hold any chance of keeping your man honest. That's my
Yeah, I don't know.
opinion.
There's a lot going on with that, but I think Miami's got a world of issues going on. What do we got next there, Denzel?
That went off the rails.
Yeah, it was a lot to unpack. MLB opening day is Thursday. Expectations. Well, MLB opening day was actually in Japan last Tuesday, or last what? Yeah, it was Tuesday for me, Wednesday for you guys. But everybody else will start playing on Thursday and Friday. Be honest with you, MLB opening day is probably one of the best days of the year, but I have no excitement this year for opening
Yeah,
day. John?
I don't know why. I have no like I was like, what day is today? I was like, is today the Orioles opening day? I was like, no, that's Thursday. Like for some reason, I have no burning desire to watch baseball right now. Like it just hasn't clicked or hit or whatever. Maybe it's a fact that Manfred is possibly the worst commissioner in sports. That's up for debate, but he is a really bad commissioner, and he just seems to make it worse and worse each year. The dumb things he does, and it's really a turnoff when it comes to baseball because I love the game, but he does so many bad things in baseball that really kills the sport. They need a salary cap too, and they refuse to add a salary cap. Until they do that, sports just continue to suffer. And they don't promote JB. I've saying this for years. They don't promote anybody besides Otani. They don't do
No, and they
anything.
don't even promote Otani. He does it himself.
Yeah, that does it itself. But I mean, they
Yeah.
do go out of their way to make sure Otani's talked about. But everybody else, there's a lot of fantastic players in MLB that you could market, and they don't. They don't even market
No.
Trout anymore.
Well, he's past his prime at this
No,
point,
but
but he's
still,
still,
that's a name. That's still a
yeah.
name. Names
They didn't do
matter.
what he was the biggest thing in MLB. But I think, to me, part of the problem is, baseball now to me, you have too many teams in the playoffs, and the fact that you still have that horrible wild card. Now they made it 3 games, which to me is a disadvantage if you're not a wild card now.
It's a point.
You know,
It's pointless for a wild card. It should have been one
yeah,
and done game.
yeah. I
That
hate
would
the
have
one
made.
and done.
But that's the
I
only way
think
you can do it
I
because
think you
you're
have to go
not.
to 8 teams. You got to go. You got to add or you got to take away. You
No,
either
I'm
go to
saying with
4 or
what
8.
we got, with what we
Yeah,
currently have, the one and done is the only way to do that because then you're
it's the only
making
way
the
to be fair
next.
for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because the bye week teams are waiting forever, and in
and
baseball
that's
specifically,
not
you
good.
cannot do that with mechanics and timing.
No, no, and the pitch clock watching the game. I don't know. I'm still not a fan of it. I
I'm
get that
not.
the game. I get that the game is now quicker and better in that respect. But you know what? You want to save time. Look at a sport like soccer that has no commercials. And instead of having 2 minutes between every half inning, because you don't need it, go down to a minute and put the boxer on the TV with the advertisers, and you make your money that
Well,
way.
what's the best part about watching an NFL game? It's not necessarily the what happens on the field because what happens on the field is usually pretty good. It's
Right.
the drama that the commentators that they create that they paint this picture for you during the game. When a play happens, they pan to Bill Belichick on the sideline. They pan back to D'Amico Ryans, and they talk about the storylines. They pan to Mahomes. They pan to Jalen Hurts. Like they do a really good job of doing that. So in baseball, JB, how many Yankees World Series have you watched where Clemens throws a pitch and he misses and it becomes a full count? And what does Clemens do? Steps off the mound. You hear the crowd get louder. You see the sweat coming down his face. He's wiping his forehead now. And he's taking his time walking around the mound. He steps back on. And then him and the batter look at each other. And then he's looking at the signals. And the announcers are talking. All that build-up drama makes that next pitch when you're watching on TV all that more exciting. But now, oh, you got to throw your pitch. Okay, get right back on the mound. Okay, batter, get back in the box. No, I got to step out and I got to do my gloves and take off the straps and hit my cleats with the bat. Like those things add to the drama. It
Yep.
slowly builds and festers. Like those high pressure moments in baseball, when you watch on TV, they become amplified whenever they can take their time. But when you have the pitch clock, that magic can't happen. It
There's
kills it.
that. And you're rushing a game. Baseball has its own clock.
Yes.
There's no time limit. It takes as long as it takes.
Yep.
If a team's hitting or a pitcher can't throw strikes, a game could take 4 hours. And that's life. If you don't want to watch it, turn the channel.
That's the way the sport was meant to be.
Yeah, I don't understand. It's not, basketball, which time runs out, that you have a certain number of outs. If you don't make out, you just keep playing. I don't know. I'm not excited. Too many teams in the playoffs. There's no drama. I actually was watching the news this morning, and there was a spring training game yesterday between the White Sox and A's, and there was actually fans there. I'm confused. If you're in Arizona, there are like all the Cactus League teams are not that far away from each other. Why are you going to see the White Sox and A's? Like, seriously. Go ahead, John.
Also, I was going to say, if you go to a game and you say, like anytime any of us go to a game, we're like, if you and I set a baseball game, we're like, you know what? Hey, after this third out, let's go and get popcorn. You're like, all right, let's go and get popcorn. Well, now at the pitch clock, and now at the time, that little bit of clock between innings that they have to start the inning, and then the pitch clock, by the time you get to the stands, which JB, when you go to that stands between innings, everybody's in line. So you're going to wait a while. And if the pitch clock is a thing, which it is, you're going to miss the whole next half inning. Waiting in line, getting your food, walking it back there, walking back to your seat. You're going to miss half an inning, if not a whole inning, because the innings go that fast. And that kills the game for you.
You're lucky if it's only a half inning or an inning with the pitch clock.
If you go to Yankee Stadium, I mean, Camden Yards is bad whenever it comes to like that. Yeah. It's not terrible, but it's bad. I would imagine at a Yankee or Dodger game, if you're waiting in line, and I've never been, you're probably missing 2 innings.
At least if, back when it's without the pitch clock, you can miss 2 innings. So imagine with the pitch clock.
Really?
Yeah, listen, I was in Japan. The lines were ridiculous. I actually made sure I did everything I had to do before the game started.
Smart.
Because the lines were so far back. And big shout out to the Tokyo Dome and their security and their staff. They did an excellent job with everything they did for those 2 games. But the fans, the lines on the concessions, there's no way I would have never got up to go, because I would have missed at least 2 to 3 innings. Horrible. I don't. What's the point? Why am I paying money?
Well, yeah. Why are you going to pay $8,000 for a ticket? And miss 2 innings. Like, you want to get every bit you can of those innings, what you paid for, even if you're not paying $8,000. Like, if you pay $75 to $100 for a seat, you pay for parking, you got to pay for the food and drink, all that stuff. Why would you want to miss an inning or 2 waiting for food or drink or to go to the bathroom? Like, that kills the whole game for you.
I got to say, this is probably the 1 year I'm not looking forward to opening day as I would usually. So, but it'll be interesting. We'll see. It's only Tuesday. Tomorrow night we'll see how I feel. All right. So we had a bunch of NFL signings that came in this afternoon in a flurry. The Giants are going quarterback heavy. As I said in our group text, 9 more quarterbacks to go. We can run the craziest flea flicker reverse double pass option, because we got Russell Wilson added to Jameis Winston. Wilson can throw a double pass to Winston, and Winston can throw a pick, and it'd be perfect. Diggs goes to the Patriots. So what signings today were you most surprised with?
I thought that Diggs signing was the dumbest one. Russell Wilson, I get it. Like, even JB, even if they get Shador or Cam Ward, I assume they're going quarterback, because I assume Patriots are going Travis Hunter. And the Giants, typically, they're the types that are they're gonna try and get like a Jackson Dart, because Shador will be gone and Cam Ward will be gone. They're like, oh, let's panic, and draft a quarterback way too high, like we did Daniel Jones. That's their style. But it does help to have a 10-time Pro Bowler, a future Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl champion, guy that's been in multiple Super Bowls. In Russell Wilson, it's been there, done that. It does help to have a veteran like that. And if you have a Russell Wilson and you draft a quarterback, JB, at least common sense would say, whoever you draft at QB, that guy's not playing a damn down for the New York Giants this year. Because you got Russ on a 1-year deal. Let Russ play a year and let that guy learn from a Hall of Fame quarterback. And he can learn from Jameis too. Sitting on the bench with Jameis, Jameis knows a lot about the game too. He's been there, done that for a long time. Despite all the picks he's thrown, he does know the game. So there's a lot to learn for whoever their quarterback is. But the Diggs one's bad. Because why would you pay $69 million to a plus 30 receiver coming off a torn ACL? He's not past his prime. We saw he can still play. But JB, like, do you really think Stephon Diggs is the Minnesota or the Buffalo Bills Stephon Diggs? Like,
no,
I think with the torn ACL, and the wrong side of 30. That's $23 million a year for Diggs for 3 years.
Yeah, I don't get the length of the deal. I
Whew.
don't get the amount of pay. Listen, not my headache. The Giants with Wilson, to me, that makes me think that they're not going to go quarterback. That maybe they're going to go Abdul Carter.
Oh, I
You
love
know,
that kid so much.
that to me, I think the fact that they got Jameis and then they went after Russ, they're gonna try and go after Manning. So they'll either take Hunter if he comes down to him, down
Perfect
to them,
spot.
which I don't think will happen. And then the other option would be take Carter, and then secure your rush. I mean, you look at some other guys from Penn State that have played that position that play in the NFL. It's a no brainer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I draft him in a second,
He reminds me
and
of
then
Micah Parsons.
yeah, exactly. And then you work towards Manning. You hope that you're not that good, but the Giants will do Giants things and win games where they shouldn't. So uh it'll back out. It'll be ruined because that's what the New York Giants like to do, which is why Swoop took me down to Philly with Saquon. But I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of shocked by that. I was shocked when I saw the Winston move.
Yeah,
I
that was
figured that
weird.
I liked it. Well, we on opening night he was in front of somebody. I think at who went first this year?
Oh, the
Was it
Eagles did.
so in between the Eagles and Chiefs? We were in front of somebody's podium, and I was talking to Jameis, and I'm like, "You should go to New York. We need a quarterback, and you give us, you could play. There's no competition, and then we could suck and get Manning." I didn't tell him we could suck and get Manning, but that's
You
the idea.
tricked him. You tricked him. He
Yes,
signed there, and now there's gonna be somebody that starts over him, and he ain't starting.
Russ is going to start over. No
Yes,
way.
Yeah, of
No way.
course Russ is gonna start. You're not paying him $21 million to ride the bench for
No,
a guy that
no
can't see
way.
5 feet in front of him.
No way. That would be horrible.
Well, Jameis is gonna be horrible.
Well, the one good thing is either one of them can move a little bit because our line's still an issue.
Jameis
So
is gonna throw 35 picks, man. If he
that's
starts all
fine. That'll help us
17 games.
lose. That'll help us lose, and then we can go after Manning.
But you still
We have,
gotta watch him for 17 games.
I'm in Chicago. I'm not giving YouTube any money until YouTube gives me money. I'm not giving them a penny. I get Chicago Bears football. Woohoo!
Oh,
We got anything else going on tonight on the show, Denzel? Yeah, looks like that's it. We got to talk about Real American Beer one more time.
yeah.
Listen, if you want a good tasting, nice beer, you want something that's new, you haven't tried it yet, go out to the store, get a case, drink with a couple of friends, play some cards, watch some
Make sure you
sports.
drink responsibly and make sure 21 or
Yes.
over. Anything under that, that is not okay.
Yes.
We do not recommend that. 21 and over is the only way it's okay.
Yes. But go out to the store, get a case, hang out with some friends, play some cards, watch some sports, just talk, but enjoy a Real American beer. Go ahead, Denzel. We're out of here. We'll see you next week.
America rules, and so does real American beer. Get some, brother.